All right, guys, so it's day 2 of the Duralast Week to Wicked presented by CPP, and behind me, the guys are running the brake lines to complete the brake system. From there, we got an engine and trans, clutch, accessory drive. That way we can drop all that into the chassis, measure for a drive shaft, and do a fuel system. So that being said, I'm gonna get back to work and get at it.
We are running all our brake lines, our tabs, flex hoses, butting all that up. That way we can have everything plumbed.
Trying to finishing up those brake lines on the rear and try to make sure everything is tight, to make sure there's no leaks and the symmetrical of the lines, you know, and it's just a couple of things that gotta take care of it.
All right, so it's time to do the Holley accessory drive. This is the water pump. It actually houses all the accessories on it. It's got the bracketry all in the cast. So if you ever have to change your water pump out, you don't change the whole housing. You actually just change the pump itself, which makes it super simple. So it comes with a gasket. Place your gasket on there, and we'll start assembling the pump now. There you go. All right, gaskets are installed. Let's go ahead and install the pump to the engine. So we have outlets for water here and underneath here, just depending on your application. We're gonna plug up the bottoms and then use these for our heater. So the kit includes the power steering pump. Like I said, it's a complete kit. This one has a reservoir connected already to the pump itself. With our application, it's not gonna fit because of our tight quarters. So we're gonna have to run this pump, which we got from Duralast, and it will house a remote reservoir. That way we can get the fluid in there and we'll have room for everything. All right. This little tool, it's a lifesaver. Duralast sent this over for us to install this here pulley. And I'm gonna go over here just so I can see how far I need to go with it so it lines up properly. Everything's lined up. So a few hand tools and 30 minutes. Accessory drive's installed. Now it's just time to get the engine into the car.
All right, so here's the new wiring. I have labeled everything outside the car. We also wrapped the wiring in loom. It's a lot easier outside the car than being inside in tight quarters. We also ran some extra wiring for different systems that we're gonna be using with the car. Definitely upgrades. So looks nice compared to the old stuff. It doesn't look too shabby, but it's definitely an upgrade. So I'm gonna grab this and go ahead and install it. All right, so we're gonna route everything in its original place. That's the cool thing about this little harness here. So go ahead and get busy, guys. I'll catch you when I'm done. Hopefully I don't get shot.
All right, so we're about to put the sending unit into the new fuel tank. It's real basic. We just made a couple of adjustments on the length. It's got some screws. You loosen, adjust, get the length right so that the bottom of the tank is here, top of the tank's up there. Tape measure, very simple. It drops into the hole. Again, really simple, fish it through. There's a gasket under my fingers. This is gonna go down. All 5 holes are gonna line up on the top of the sending unit. There's a little index mark to help you know which way you're set up. Gaskets are there, and we just thread in some screws from this point on.
All right, so I just installed the pilot bearing into the crank. There are 2 different pilot bearings. There's one that actually comes out here, and then there's another one that sits in the second step. So you gotta measure your output shaft on your transmission to figure out which one you need. This is part of the bell housing from QuickTime. Be sure you install this before you put the flywheel on there. I've done it both ways and kind of sucks when you get everything assembled and then you gotta disassemble it to put this back on there. So now that that's on there, we can go ahead and put our flywheel on there. All right, so we're gonna use a dual disc setup from Spec, and everything's marked on here also. and I'll show you that once we get to the pressure plate. So let's put our centering tool in, get that into the pilot bearing. That will kind of hold that in place. I've actually marked it myself a little bit. Just makes me a little more comfortable. So I got my mark there, and then we're gonna line up this yellow one to the pressure plate. Make sure your centering tool's still in the pilot bearing, and then go ahead and start getting these fastened. Duralast was kind enough to actually send us a few tools to try out, and this is their torque wrench. We just finished up the engine. We're gonna put the hydraulic bearing on the transmission, take a couple measurements, make sure we don't need to shim the bearing to reach the fingers of the pressure plate, mate the two, install it in the car.
Put that up there, help guide it in. I'm gonna go up with the jack.
Up.
All right, so right now we're installing the adjustable motor mounts from CPP. So you can actually move the engine backwards or forward if you need it. So you can also flip the plate if you need to go a lot more forward, which is kind of cool.
All right, so we're gonna end up mounting that pressure regulator right there. Do that a little bit later. Right now the fittings are loose, but we got them all tight on the tank. We just want to give this a final once over and make sure that the position is just right before we move it around.
You don't want to tighten these up either, you want to leave them loose. That way you know where you'll make your adjustment.
We're gonna lower the car?
Well, unless you got a better way of doing this.
Now if you want to get crushed.
Go ahead.
Careful.
Okay, go up a little bit. We're gonna have to tilt it.
All right.
Go ahead, go up. Okay, now in. Now down. Now we got all kinds of room.
Okay.
Watch the oil pan.
Okay, jack it up in the rear a little bit if you can.
Yeah.
I don't know if we got it happening, but we can try to go. There you go.
There you go. Gary, you can come up.
All right, so we're wrapping up day 2, and to say it was a productive day is an understatement. Both teams actually came in and killed it, finished all the brake plumbing. Christian did some wiring.
Yeah, I got the wiring all inside the cab, ran to the back, out to the front. CPP guys installed the tank, so
Yeah,
that was
looking good. Clutch is in, fine-tuned the bearing, and obviously the biggest change of the day is engine trans were actually installed, measured for a drive shaft. So we're gonna cut out a little bit early, get some rest, come back tomorrow, and start all over.
Let's go.